Here there is a map of Jerusalem, of the old city, just to understand where we are. Okay, we are now in the Zion Gate. The Zion Gate is here. This is the Zion Gate. Behind us over here is actually Mount Zion area. Mount Zion area, we have a traditional tomb of King David. And here we have this gate over here that's leading to the Jewish quarter. Actually, the gate is in the edge of the Armenian quarter, the beginning of the Jewish quarter. We can see here the remains of the battles of the war in 1948, when the Jewish quarter was evacuated, totally damaged, destroyed by the Arabs. 1967, the 6 Days War, the Jerusalem Brigade came through this gate, and they met actually the paratroopers in the Western Wall, and actually Jerusalem was liberated in 1967. So we can see already the inscription over there. The walls of Jerusalem, the actual walls that you see today, those were built by Suleiman the Magnificent, Turkish emperor, in the 16th century. Beautiful walls. We walked through the wall, through the gate. I'm sorry, not through the wall, the gate. Follow me. I have to explain this later on. Mezuzah. Please come. We are now already in the old city. The existence of the Armenian church is from the 4th century. They're here quite a long time here in Jerusalem. And the Armenian people, they suffered a lot from the Turks. 1.5 million Armenians have been killed by the Turks, a real genocide. Till today, the Turks they don't admit this massacre of the Armenian people. America have air bases in Turkey. We have relation with Turkey. There's always politics involved. Why not to recognize officially the genocide? Okay, very nice people. We are now in the Jewish quarter. You can tell this is the giant stone from the old times. This is a new structure, new building, renovated. If we're looking down below, we can see the remains of the Cardo, the main street in the Roman Byzantine period that crossed Jerusalem from Mount Zion all the way to Damascus Gate on the other side of the city. We can see the columns. The street level is over here. There was a second line of columns in our side. There were shops on the other side. And a part of the Byzantine, Roman Byzantine Cardo was reused at the Crusaders' time. Today is in the Jewish quarter, the galleries and so on, from Mount Zion all the way to Damascus Gate. One of the nicest synagogues here in the old city is this one on the left. We call it the Chova, the ruin. The beginning of it was in the 18th century when a rabbi and his people, they came to Jerusalem and he started building the synagogue. But unfortunately, this synagogue was totally damaged and destroyed in the independent war. There was a big process of rebuilding the synagogue in the last years, and in the last more than 15 years, actually, we renovate and rebuild the entire synagogue that you see over here, and the whole synagogue, exactly like it used to be in the ancient time. If we're looking right here on the left, we can see the menorah, candelabra with 7 branches. There is an institution, it's called the Temple Institution, and they are very, very right in their way of thinking about the temple. They are preparing themselves physically to the new temple that will be rebuilt. Not just the menorah, but also all the vessels of the temple, the garments of the priest, and everything. They prepare themselves for the third temple coming in Jerusalem. If we're looking ahead of us, we can see down below over there is a wall. He is covered right now because they're doing renovation of the entire area. We call it the broad wall. The broad wall, or the large wall, is a wall from the first temple period. We estimate the height of this wall about more than 20 feet, and it's quite wide, 12 feet wide, as you can understand, and no, I said more than 30 feet high. We are now standing out of Jerusalem in the first temple period. You understand? That was the limit of Jerusalem. That wall is from the first temple period. Okay? Nothing to do with the exterior walls that we see today in Jerusalem. And the city was behind. The city was smaller, different. If we're talking about before the Babylonian exile, that was the limit of Jerusalem. You understand? Jerusalem is layers and layers and layers of civilization. Really, really a lot to see in the old city. All right? Okay, we continue. We're going backwards the way we came. There is a synagogue that also was damaged and destroyed in the event of 1948, the Independence War. Right now they are rebuilding and renovating the synagogue. It's called the Glory of Israel. It's here on the right hand side. This is actually a church and a hospital. The German hospital over here, German Knights. This area, we have also remains from almost every period in Jerusalem. Yeshiva is actually a biblical school that used to be here from the 19th century. We had a glance look on the corridor before, and this is a second Roman road over here. Okay, the second corridor, we have the corridor minimus and the corridor maximus. This is the smaller corridor, but we can see actually from the Roman time there was a gate over there, and that gate was called the Tanner Gate. All right. Next to it, we have the big gates that leading to the Jewish quarter we call the Don's Gates. All right. This is the Temple Mount area. This is the southern excavations, what we call Davidson Center. And we're going to walk here. We're going to see the remains next to the temple on the southern area. All right. You're going to be stepping on the solid steps, the genuine steps that Jesus walked on them 2,000 years ago. Come with me.
Hey, Ami.
Yes.
Just before we leave here, I want to point out this is what I've been trying to show in class all along with the 3D representation, because here you're seeing, get your Al-Aqsa Mosque, the black dome and the gold dome. That's black is south, gold is north, so you're running north-south right here, and here are your valleys. This is the Tyropian Valley, the Valley of the Cheesemakers, that has been filled in with so many destruction layers that have been pushed off in there that it's hardly even a valley anymore. But over here is the Mount of Olives running along.
Here's Mount of Olives.
Yeah. Over there, off the map, I guess. Yeah. So that side is Mount of Olives. This is Kidron Valley here down to Gehenna Valley, as it wraps around here. And
there's something anyway I'm going to say in the afternoon.
But you got the map here.
Right. Okay, so since Pat started talking about it, anyway, this is the size of the city of David actually, right here, and really relatively small compared to the city today. Okay, we have Mount of Olives over here, we have the Kidron Valley that it's in between, and then we have what we call the small valley, the Cheesemaker Valley. We'll talk about it, and you're going to see also the scale of Jerusalem, and everything will be every day brighter and brighter. Okay? Okay? Okay. Let's go, guys. Sunshine for you.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be much better.
I just want to say that over here we have big stones over here, And this is actually a structure of a palace that was built in the 8th century by the Umayyad rulers, the Muslim rulers in the early Muslim period. Okay, they actually built a whole palace over here, and probably they reused a lot of stones from the temple. As we can see it. You can see the wall over there, down below, from the Herodian time, and you can see a wall that's very different when we go upper and upper. I mean, the genuine structure of the base of the temple mount, of the temple solid mount, the foundation of the temple, we still have them. But the temple himself, that was destroyed by the Romans. And then we have here many, many remains from different periods that were built above it. You understand? All right, we continue. No, it's mikveh. You coming, guys? Behind the trees over there, it's actually the city of David that we're going to visit later on in the afternoon. Over here we have a lot of remains over here from the Roman Byzantine period, but we can see also a lot of mikvaot over here. And the reason is, of course, the temple over here. And we will talk about it in a minute. All right? Please come with me. We can see here a gate, what we call it Hulda gate over here, one of the gates that existed in the ancient time, in the time of the Herodian period, in the time of Christ. Now, we're coming now to actually the main entrance to the temple. How we call all the way from David city to the Temple Mount? The Ophel, the way up to the mountain, up to the temple. We have to understand, those are the genuine steps. Those are the real steps from the ancient time, from Christ's period. You're going to be dressed white when you go into the temple. Then you have to pay at the temple, at the basilica that was right. You see the Al-Aqsa Mosque over there? Instead of that, it used to be a basilica, a big structure. When Jesus had been here, he was so mad about what's going on. How come the house of God became a place of merchants and of money? The temple was huge. It was a big structure. There were priests, there were people. It was a lot of maintenance. Pilgrim that came over here, he had to sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of money, and finally he's going into the temple. And he walks in. He walks in, finally he found himself in a plaza. I mean, men and women could be for a moment together, also Gentiles. And my house shall be a house for all nations. But then there was a fence. That's the limit for the Gentiles and the women. On the other side of the center of the Holy of Holiness, and they were handling the sacrifice, the animal to the priest, and the priest will do the sacrifice, and the Levites chanting and singing, and it was a whole process and thing over there at the Holy Temple.
I want to ask you to come gather with me here at this level before we get to the steps. Just stop right here, and if you would, face the upstairs. And so I want you to imagine just for a moment that maybe 7 weeks ago you were here in Jerusalem for Passover. Maybe you were here and you heard about that rabbi from Galilee who had been preaching in the temple and through some strange series of events was crucified in front of the people. And maybe you heard about that, and maybe you heard the stories from some of the eyewitnesses that they had seen him alive. As you come to the temple in Jerusalem, as a good, devout Jew visiting the temple, you might be singing Psalms of Ascent. And so we are going to reenact in our own best effort the crowd of Jewish worshipers coming here and ascending to the temple. Now we're on the final ascent. Everybody in Israel, everybody who lives in the diaspora talks about coming home and going up to Jerusalem. When you get to Jerusalem, you go up to the temple. So there's several Psalms of Ascent. I picked 2 of these for us. And what I'm going to ask you to do, rugged as it is we're going to read 2 Psalms of Ascent as we climb these steps together. And so at the end of each verse, I'm going to say, step up. So come toward the steps. A song of ascents of David. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, let Israel now say, step up. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side when people rose up against us, up, then they would have swallowed us up alive with their anger when their anger was kindled against us, up. Then the flood would have swept us away, the torrent would have gone over us. Then over us would have gone the raging waters. Blessed be the Lord, who has not given us up as prey to their teeth. We have escaped like a bird from the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, and we have escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Now Psalm 125. Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved, but abides forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people from this time forth and forevermore. Now, as you have come to this place, you're closer to the temple. You're about to enter through the hall to gates. You can find very good 3D simulations developed in the last few years to show you what the temple looks like from this place. You're walking into a long arched hallway, but very likely here in this maximum traffic spot, there is one disciple named Peter who on this day preaches a really radical, revelatory sermon that shows us the fulfillment of so many Old Testament.
Jesus himself told his disciple, you'll find a man in the gate of the city, follow him, he will lead you to an upper room. Do you understand me? And that's where you're going to celebrate the Passover meal, because he came in Passover, right? What is the word Passover? Let me explain you. Passover, it's coming actually from the book of Genesis, when actually Moses came to Pharaoh and he said, okay, let my people go. Pharaoh said yes or no? No, it was stubborn. He said, no way.